I saw a picture posted on social media. This was Danny Haiphong who posted it. It was a funeral in New York City for a policeman who was shot, who was fatally shot. Here's the picture, right? I don't know if you can quite see. I don't know if you can quite see the size of that, but this is a sea of policemen. All of this section here. This is all police. I mean, I honestly cannot. I don't even know how many that is. It's just thousands and thousands, right? It's incredible. It's quite a sight. And Danny said, "I'm going to tell my kids this is what fascism looks like." And Susan Sarandon actually retweeted this, and she said something along the lines of, "If all of these cops are on duty, then obviously we don't need all of them." I'm paraphrasing, but she said something along those lines. And, you know, Danny and Susan, they both got a lot of heat for that. I mean, I'm not going to read to you the comments in his DMs, but really just a bunch of nasty stuff. You know, stuff like this. This is what they were sending to Danny. And you know what happened? Susan Sarandon actually, I couldn't find the tweet anymore. I don't know if she took it down, but look what happened in the press. So this is from NBC News, which, as you know, are huge fans of Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon faces backlash for retweeting posts comparing police funeral to fascism, right? And so they also talked about Danny, right? It said Susan Sarandon is facing criticism after she shared a tweet comparing the funeral of a slain NYC police officer to fascism. Following the funeral of Officer Jason Rivera, who was shot and killed responding to a call in Harlem last month, Danny Haiphong shared a photo of thousands of police officers lining Fifth Avenue outside St. Patrick's Cathedral, where the service for Rivera, who's 22, was held. And they quote Danny, right? And then they say, wrote Haiphong, who identifies himself as an independent journalist. He doesn't identify himself as a journalist. He is a journalist. He is an independent journalist, and a very good one at that. You should support his work on Patreon. And underneath it, right underneath that, they put a definition of what fascism is, like as if people reading it are too stupid to figure it out for themselves. And then basically, I don't know what the point of this is, except to, echo the comments that they received. But I just want to say something to you, because that picture of the police, let's take a look at it again, right? That's a lot of police. That is a lot of police. And I want to say something to you. If this photograph had been taken in North Korea, in Syria, in China, in Iran, what do you think people would say? What do you think Americans specifically would say? I think they would say the same thing as Danny did, because they've been conditioned to believe that, well, fascism doesn't exist in America. There's no authoritarianism in America. All of these axis of evil countries, yeah, they have it, right? So they would just immediately, call those countries whatever smear, countries they've never visited, the language they don't speak, they have no connection or clue about the culture. They've just been conditioned and programmed to hate certain countries by the lackeys on corporate media who lie to start wars, who lie to justify sanctions, whose business it is to advertise and promote murder. And so people, a lot of Americans, I'm not saying all, but a lot of people in America and Europe would have no problem seeing a photo of this in Venezuela and calling Venezuela a police state or a fascist state or an authoritarian state. If a Syrian coughs, they're always like, Assadist. If you're Cuban, if you're from North Korea, all of the official enemies of the United States, everyone is automatically brainwashed, a fascist, they're authoritarian. That's how they view the rest of the world. But apparently they think that, there's no such thing as fascism in America. There's no such thing as authoritarianism. All of the shit that they call other countries apparently doesn't exist in the United States. And that's not to say that the United States, they're not. I'm not saying everyone in the United States would say that, but a lot of people would. I think a lot of the people who are complaining about this tweet wouldn't hesitate to say the same thing about Cuba or Russia or North Korea, even though they have no connection to that country. They have no clue about it. So I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy. because people are getting so upset about Danny's tweet or Susan Sarandon's tweet, but they wouldn't hesitate to say the same thing about other countries, right? And I mean, just bear with me a second. That is a lot of police, and people have said that these are off-duty cops. So that's why it's a lot of them. Okay, off-duty or not off-duty. I'm just trying to understand this from a budget point of view. Like, how do you, like, why would you get more than what you need? Whatever it is, policemen, computers, cars, you know, don't you think that's a lot? Because if you say, okay, well, we need X amount of police to protect New York City, and then you get, you know, X to the power of 20, that's way more than you need. So are they needed or not? It's just a budget question. It's nothing to do with, you know, fuck the police or something. It's just a legitimate budget question. I'm just trying to understand the logic in it. And here, take a look at this. This is how much the United States spends on police. Take a look at this, right? So this is compared to the military budget, okay? So where U.S. police spending ranks among worldwide military expenditures, the United States, state and local governments collectively spend more on policing than most countries do on their militaries. So the United States spends $118 billion on police. This is from 2019, right? India's military is $71 billion. That's almost double of what India spends on its military. Do you really need that? Again, it's not just New York City, it's just combined. I mean, there are bigger countries who don't spend that much. Russia is certainly bigger than the United States, and it spends half of what the United States spends on police on its military. Which is arguably, in terms of national defense, it's the army, right? Because that's a separate expenditure. And how do you rationalize that? I know how to rationalize it in one way. I'll tell you why they spend so much money, because it's a racket. It's a racket. When you have a militarized police force, you're selling them APCs, you know, armored personnel carriers, which are used in war zones. You're selling them machine guns. You're selling them all sorts of tactical equipment that is reserved usually for a combat zone, that is reserved usually for military applications. You're basically just doubling the profits of the arms manufacturers and the weapons manufacturers, even down to the uniforms, the companies that make the uniforms. You know, the arms dealers have a very, very diversified portfolio, make no mistake. This is one of the reasons why you have a militarized police force in the US, because the money is not about protecting Americans. It's not about having a police force that protects and serves. It's about having a police force that makes profits for the same companies that make weapons, right? So they're selling now, not, you know, the companies that make armored personnel carriers are not just going to be selling now to the US military. They're also going to be selling to state and local police forces. Do you understand? And they give these police forces a budget, a certain budget in the year, right? It varies from state to state, from municipality to municipality. And if they don't spend it, the budget gets cut. So they're like basically being told to spend all this money on stuff they usually don't even need, right? That's one of the reasons they have a militarized police force, and why they look like you know, they're in a combat zone, because that's the whole idea. And so, again, I don't know what the point is of this NBC article. They're basically like smearing Susan Sarandon and Danny like he identifies as a journalist. No, he is regarded as a journalist because he fucking is. He's certainly a bigger journalist than you nobodies, right? With your bullshit smears, you can't even report on anything of value. So, you know, it's just another corporate outlet. So anyway, just a shocking picture, really. It's absolutely incredible. I don't think most Americans would say nice comments about that if you were from another country. Just wanted to point out the hypocrisy for you.